Kia ora and welcome everyone to today's webinar. I'll open up with a karakia for our session. Mōri ora kia mātou, arahina mātou ia mātou mahi. Ki mihia he huarahi mō te kaupapa o te tauranga hangarau. A whina atu, a whina mai. Te pau e here nei ia mātou. Hui e, tae ki e. Today we're joined by Anna and Julie from BCITO, who bring a wealth of knowledge across both education and the construction sector. Anna began her career as a secondary music teacher before moving into tertiary education, where she has developed national credentials and resources for organisations such as Primary ITO, Connexus, GrowSafe, Wahanga Araro, and now BCITO. She was directly involved in creating the new BCATS skill standards and is excited to see how schools and providers bring them to life. Julie has spent 25 years across schools and ITOs as a Dean, HOD and Gateway Coordinator. Her journey started in the construction industry, completing a painting and decorating apprenticeship at just 19. Now with BCATO, she develops learning and assessment resources for the new skill standards, drawing on both her construction and teaching backgrounds. Julie is passionate about how practical skills build confidence, communication, and real-world problem solving for learners. In today's webinar, Anna and Julie will walk us through an overview of the new BCAT skill standards, the new resources, and how to access everything you need. No mai haere mai, welcome Anna and Julie.
Thanks, Pip. Kia ora. Stay with me while I share my screen. Okay, so welcome everybody. Thank you for the introduction, Pip. Julie and I are here today to, as Pip said, talk to you about the BCAT standards. Specifically in this workshop, we're going to talk about moving to the new standards from unit standards, the new resources that have been created, as well as how you can access those resources. So as a starting point, I'd like to walk you through how the new skill standards for BCATS came to being. And unfortunately, prior to this, we have had our associates from Wahanga Araro working with us on presenting this information, but you'll be aware that the Construction Infrastructure Workforce Development Council is about to be disestablished and soon to be moving into becoming an industry skills board. So from next year, we will be reporting to the Industry Skills Board instead. But I will talk you through what has happened up until this point. So we've had a directive from NZQA that we are moving to skill standards from unit standards. The main reason being that there was an interest in formal recognition of skills and less of a focus on, say, the more of a theory approach to the standards. Now the standards are very much moving to being very practical in nature. The structure of a skill standard is that we have learning outcomes which sit alongside assessment criteria, and we also have assessment specifications, and all of these things work together to describe the expectations of the skill. Most skill standards have only one learning outcome, and then the assessment criteria explains what needs to be done to achieve that learning outcome. As well as that, in skill standards, we have a new section called indicative content. That will be a new thing that people haven't seen before. And the indicative content provides a list of topics or teachings and learnings that would be expected to sit alongside the assessment of that skill. So indicative content is not designed to be assessed as such. It is more those key learnings, those key teachings that need to happen for the assessment to take place. In terms of the BCAT skill standards that have been created, it's been around a 2-year process to get the skill standards to where they are now, and that's registered on the Directory of Assessment and Skill Standards with NZQA. and most of the skill standards do align quite directly with the unit standards, and I'll show you that shortly. But there have been some changes from the unit standard structure in terms of what's now in the new BCATS standards. So now we have achieved merit and excellence grades. These have been added to the standards to recognise the effort and flair that is demonstrated by students in the creation of their BCATS projects, which is really exciting. We had a lot of feedback and carried out a lot of consultation with teachers and other people involved in the use of the standards. And there was overwhelming feedback that they wanted the grades added. And so that's why we've ended up with them included here. The Achieve Merit Excellence grades contribute to NCEA endorsements, not at subject level, but at certificate level. And what's really exciting as well is that the skill standards enable the cross-crediting of skills in some instances to apprenticeships once the students have left school. So it means that they can take those skills with them into their apprenticeships and use those skills to contribute towards their apprenticeship. So yeah, that's really great to see that happening as well. A piece of work that was carried out by the Workforce Development Council alongside the development of the BCAT skill standards was the development of program guidance. This is quite a large document that is still available through the Workforce Development Council, but we'll be providing that directly from BCITO once they have been disestablished so that they can be accessed by all teachers. It's a really important document for teachers to use to assess the new Achieve Merit Excellence grades within the skill standards. So it's an essential guide. As I say, it really is important that all teachers access this document and have it on hand. It provides expectations for delivery at levels 1, 2, and 3 for the BCAT standards, as well as a lot of information around example projects, etc. We also have within the program guidance examples of projects for each level, and that will be within the front of the document, but as well as that in the commentary section at the back. The commentary basically provides indicators and exemplars for every single standard and what would be expected for achieved merit and excellence, as well as not achieved, what you would be seeing there. So yeah, moving on to the BCAT standards. Many of you will have already been on NCQA to see the new standards, but if you haven't already, you can access them. I can provide a link to that if required. But this table here, it shows you the unit standards that currently exist and the skill standards that are coming into to use from next year. So in a nutshell, we have basically not replaced, but we have created skill standards that still cater for the vast majority of skills that you would have previously seen. And some of the skill standards directly do replace the unit standard, but the content may be slightly different. We have a new hand tool standard. This was previously at level 2 and now it's a level 1 standard. We've still got safety and materials, construction processes, hardware and fastenings joints, knowledge of trades, and we have the concrete standard as well. But we also have 3 new standards here. And the reason that these have been created is so that we have a pathway for level 1 all the way through to level 3. So previously there was no power tools standard at level 1, nor was there a basic maths standard or a communication standard. And so these 3 on the right here in bold have been created to provide that pathway from level 1. So used trade language is essentially the communication standard for level 1. Level 2, we have no new standards here, but you'll see that the project standards are still here, and we've still got that continuation of skills for safety, communication, maths, planning, as well as material use. We've got the sketches and drawings standard and tools, and we've still got the fixed machinery. What we aren't doing is continuing with the standard around reading and interpreting plans and drawings. So you see that's 22607 that standard hasn't been replaced, but instead those skills have been absorbed into the standard around planning and monitoring a BCATS project, which is 40558. At level 3, we have one new standard you'll see on the right there, which is planning and monitoring a project. And again, that standard replaces developing and using project documentation, as well as taking a few of the other bits and pieces from some of the other standards. These standards, the skill standards here, are mostly level 5 credits in value. The difference being that the project standard, 40576, is 8. That standard was previously, I think, 12, and the credit value has been taken down because it was seen by the group that developed the standards that they wanted more emphasis put on the other skills, not just the project standard as the main sort of focus. So that's why that credit value has come down. And now for that standard, they actually need to complete the project to be awarded it. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to Julie, and Julie is going to take us through the resources that we are introducing to go with our skill standards.
Thank you. So this is the new learning resource, and we've chosen safety. This resource will cover safety knowledge for levels 1, 2, and 3, so they've all been combined together. As you can see on the front of the learning resource, we've stated that it provides guidance for the learning required by the skill standards. This is because information and rules don't change when it regards to safety, but what changes is how safety is applied and the responsibilities of the person applying it. We know that safety is something that is taught in every lesson, and that learners will have reminders from you before any tasks are attempted. And as they gain levels 1, 2, and 3, they'll be developing responsibility, not just for their own safety, but for that of others as well. So this resource has an introduction, they all have an introduction, and it covers the subject on hand and an overview of what they need to learn. This is based on the assessment tasks. And then the little blue box at the bottom, we've put a reminder of the fact that accidents at work affect everybody involved. And it's designed to make the learners stop and think before acting and perhaps going off and doing something that they shouldn't be doing. So the next one we've got is basic safety rules, and Dan, our designer, has put these reminders in. He's put them throughout all the learning resources about thinking about what the possible issues might be, and then what you might actually do, so wearing your PPE, and then your heart as well. So making sure that everything's safe and tidy, looks after yourself and everybody else as well in the workplace. Then we've got the clipboard. This breaks up each section of work and it acts as a space for students to stop again and consider the work that they're doing. So the information that we've got in here, we've shown safety signs, and knowing the language and coding of safety signs is essential. We've simplified this to explain the colour codes and used to warn of danger or mandatory rules to obey. Once this information is understood, it can be applied to all the signs that might appear around the workshop. And then we've also included some small activity boxes so that learners stop and think about the information that they've just read and how it might be applied to the work that they're doing. We've also acknowledged that self can be a risk, so we've got a paragraph in there about mental health and a simple explanation of how to recognise and cope with mental health. And then what we've tried to do is we've tried to use colour and symbols with the PPE. The graphics that Dan's designed are simple, but they're colourful, and that's hopefully to impress on learners what they need to wear to keep safe and keep that message going across in a simple format. Here is included different types of PPE and how they protect the wearer.
Thanks, Julie. So essentially you'll see in this resource that Julie's just explained a move towards lots more colour, more space on the page to appeal to those students that are neurodiverse, and that's more plain English as well, and trying as much as possible to use those symbols that help to indicate where new sections are starting, and to guide the learner a bit more. In terms of assessment, these are some other resources obviously that we've created. So we have our learning resources, and we're also going to be having an assessment resource, one for each standard. So I'm just going to briefly explain how the assessment practice is going to happen for the skill standards. So with a skill standard, is much more of a holistic assessment. When the decision was made to move to skill standards, it was viewed that unit standards were becoming quite prescriptive, lots of checklists, lots of tasks to be completed. But with a skill standard, it's very much holistic and one skill that needs to be demonstrated. For example, safety in the workplace, and then you've got your assessment criteria that explain what that actually looks like. The grades that they are awarded need to be consistent with the evidence that's presented. So if they have presented a suite of evidence that, say, shows perhaps more of an achieved level of achievement across the board, there would be a question as to why merit was awarded for that standard. So we need to be seeing that the evidence matches the grade awarded. I just have put here, in terms of the move to the industry skills boards, we've had a lot of questions around what moderation will look like for teachers and schools going forward. At this stage, we don't actually know what the moderation process looks like. The establishment of the industry skills boards is still ongoing. And so that will be rolled out and explained to teachers from 2026. And what we're actually encouraging teachers and schools to do in the meantime is to collaborate with other schools, check in with each other, bounce ideas off each other, discuss projects that you see with your students and what you've awarded, and compare with what other schools are doing as an interim measure until that moderation process comes into being with the industry skills boards. Yeah, so just the importance of communities of practice and making sure that that's happening in your area would be great. Julie's just going to talk us through one of our assessment resources to show you how they look.
So all of the assessment resources are individually tailored to each skill standard. And for this one today, we've selected a level 2 safety assessment. BCITO, we have clearly stated that the skill standard and a level on the front of the document. Overall, there is one task, and that is to apply safety controls to your project to be carried out throughout the project. This must be developed and demonstrated as you go along in the project. In the learner instructions on page 2, we've made clear about what a learner needs to do to gain this skill standard. And then we've used symbols common to all the skill standard assessments as a guide to the evidence that the learner will need to pass this skill standard. The EYES logo is always featured because you, as the teacher, will be observing the development of their knowledge and skills throughout the project. You'll be asked to provide comments about their abilities, and this will be part of the final assessment. In this assessment, the learner needs to complete a floor plan and identify hazards and take pictures, or have the teacher take them, to provide a visual commentary on the progress of the project and the learning taking place, and possibly maintain a maintenance record. The end comment, right at the bottom of the page there between the 2 lines, is written to embed the standards required to work towards excellence. So the language used in that encourages the student towards excellence. The assessment moves on to the required tasks, which we provided worksheets for learners to use if they need to. We know that schools have many ways of collecting this evidence, and if you have another way that collects and keeps that information and meets the criteria, that's okay too. We have included the phrase "not being prompted" because the learners should, by the end of the project, be responsible for safety. And if they are still being told to work safely and do not have the interests of others at heart, they've not met the standard of the assessment. The assessment checklist is a place where the teacher and learner discuss and agree on the evidence that the learner has provided. And we've listed the activity within the project and the evidence required for that assessment. And the teacher and learner work together to collect the assessment evidence. Teacher observation page. This section is where comments on the learner's grade are recorded against the assessment criteria. These comments should be pitched at the grade that you think the learner is working towards and the evidence that they have provided using the criteria of the skill standard. And then finally, on page 9, we've got the grade awarded. This is when the project is complete and all the evidence has been presented and the final grading sign-off can occur. This is agreed upon by both the teacher and the learner. Thanks, Julie.
Okay, so in terms of other resources that are in process and with us, we've got a teacher resource for each level being developed. We haven't actually completed all of the assessment moderation yet. So unfortunately, with the move to the Industry Skills Board, the pre-moderation process was almost completed, but not quite. So we haven't quite been able to complete that, which means that the teacher resources aren't quite complete yet either. But as an interim measure, we are providing the assessment schedules for all of the standards that have resources ready to go for teachers, just for access through BCITO. So as I mentioned, there's going to be one teacher resource per level. The resources provide assessment and evidence requirements and judgment statements as always. There's also a bit of an example at the front about what kind of comments you would be looking to provide for each of the assessment resources. Okay, so just moving on to how the resources can be accessed. At the moment, we are providing all of the resources via OneDrive. Be Constructive is in construction, so we are just in the process of making the resources available on there. But again, as an interim measure, we're just providing the resources via OneDrive while that's happening. So we're expecting the resources to go up on Be Constructive from 2026 early. And then once the resources are up on Be Constructive early next year, we're going to be putting all of the learning resources up on my BCITO, as well as providing the teacher resources on there as well. That needs to follow the Be Constructive changes. So yeah, that'll probably be going into the first quarter of 2026. And the resources will basically be available as they are completed. On the next couple of pages, I'm just going to show you what's currently available. So at the moment, we have for the learning resources, a safety resource, which covers 3 skill standards across levels 1 to 3, as well as a communications resource, which again is for 3 standards. We have a joint resource for level 1 and the sketches and drawings learning resource for level 2. Some of the standards, as Julie mentioned earlier, are just one learning resource, but wherever possible, we've tried to combine them into one resource per topic. Yeah, so that's the learning resources. For assessment resources, we have a number of the assessments ready to go already. Level 1, you'll see that there are 8 standards ready to go with their assessment resources. Level 2, we've got 7, and level 3, we've got 6, but we will have 2 more level 3 standards ready to go before the end of the year. There's also, as I've bolded there, a cutting list and project record available for the level 2 project standards, and we'll be putting them up and making them available for everybody as well. If the resources that you require aren't there yet, in terms of the assessment resources, you will need to just continue to use the unit standard instead of the skill standard into next year. But yeah, we've been very focused on making sure as many of the assessment resources for the skill standards as possible are ready to go. With regard to the learning resources, as we've been working through those, we've seen that there's probably a little bit more work required to get them into a state that is ready for rollout. And so, yes, we've only got 4 ready, but we are expecting them to be gradually rolled out from early next year. Again, if the learning resource that you need for the standards that you are using isn't there, you can use the unit standards student resource as an interim measure, because the information there is still adequate and will still be applicable to the standards that you use, the skill standards that you use. Okay, I've just included here a few frequently asked questions that we've had as we have been rolling out these resources, just because often people do have the same questions. So I'm just going to go through these and just make things a little bit more clear. So can my school use the skill standards next year? Yes, you can use the skill standards from 2026. The unit standards will expire on the 31st of December 2027. So you have until then to continue to use the unit standards and then to replace them with the skill standards from then on. So yeah, that's when you have to stop using the unit standards. Are the skill standards the same as achievement standards now? So as I mentioned, the skill standards do include the grades, but they don't provide the opportunity for students to get those endorsements at a subject level, only at certificate level. The directive we've had from the Ministry of Education is that students are still continuing with those pathways into university via the achievement standards, and the skill standards will provide that vocational pathway through school. Can I use both unit standards and skill standards in my courses for 2026? So the answer is yes, you can. However, no skill standard that directly replaces a unit standard can be used in the same course. So say the level 2 safety skill standard can't be used in the same course as the safety unit standard because that standard directly replaces the unit standard. So that would be the criteria for the use of both types of standard. How will I know when new resources are available? I have got a large list of teachers that I will be emailing directly to let everybody know when the new resources are coming up available. But if you don't have your name on that list, I'm very happy to take your name and add it to it so that I'm making sure that I reach every school that I need to. So after this, I'm sure that we can work with Pip to make sure that everybody has access to my email to provide that. How can I check if the projects we plan to use are at the right level? So we've had quite a few inquiries through from teachers asking about their projects, and we are very happy to talk about those expectations and to talk about whether those projects would be appropriate. So again, you'll have my email address and you can ask if those questions through me. Who do I talk to about the standards to use if we build houses at my school? So we have a person within BCITO, his name is Mark Chalmers, and Mark is the best person to talk to about other standards to use if your school is building houses. House building at school is not really the right context for BCATS standards, so we are encouraging schools to use more construction-based standards instead. So if that is the case, probably best to get in touch with me and I can get you in touch with Mark to discuss that. And lastly, will Gateway be changing in 2026? So yeah, Gateway is not going to be changing next year. The plan at the moment is for Gateway to be changing from 2027. So for 2026, please continue to use the unit standards for the Gateway students. And so that's us, and basically for now. What I'm happy to do though at the moment is to answer any other questions that anybody might have, and Julie might be able to answer them too. So yeah.
Awesome. We'll give people a few moments to put their questions in the Q&A. I had one because I'm not familiar with the my BCITO platform, and I'm wondering when teachers and students access the learning resources, are they able to fill them out in a digital format, or do they have to print and, like, are they PDFs and they print and fill them out?
So we are providing the resources as editable PDFs, so you can either print them and students fill them out that way, or they can be edited online as well. Some teachers have suggested downloading them to the student's computer. They fill in all the information and then upload them back to Google Classroom, say, and that seems to be a good way of doing it. So yeah, we are providing that editable method.
Nice. Anna, if you just want to stop sharing your slide, and I will share mine, which has your email address on it, so that people watching can get in contact if they want to be on that list you were talking about.
No worries.
So there it is at the top. If you want to stay in touch with Anna and Julie around the BCATS skill standards. Yeah, we got any other questions in Q&A? Oh, I think that's it. You must have answered everybody's question. I had a little list here, and then you got to the FAQ, and then I was like, oh, tick, tick. So there we go. Yeah, so please get in touch with Anna there with her email address if you want to start looking at creating a community of practice. You can also get in touch with TENS, and we can connect people up so that they can moderate together and mark together and work out how they build their teaching and learning programs. Please give us some feedback on the webinar there with the QR code, and if you want to start a conversation, you can go into our forums to talk more about the skill standards. Anything further to share, Anna and Julie?
No, I think that's us for today. So yeah, just happy to take any questions or yeah, concerns anybody's got just via my email. Please go ahead and do that.
Awesome. Our next Wednesday webinar will be in 2026. So this will be on January the 28th from 4 till 5. And that's with Kimberly Sellings. And that is all around her STEM projects that she does in her schools. And they're always with a community purpose. They're incredible projects. So please sign up for that one. We look forward to talking with Kimberly Sellings. And I will finish off with the karakia. Kia mātou katoa, kua mutu mātou ia mātou mahi, ia mātou kaupapa hoki. Arahina mātou, kia kawe mātou ia mātou heipapa. Kia whakatapu mātou ki ngā kaupapa me ngā mea whakapono. Manakitia mai mātou. Thanks everyone.